Welcome to the fourth insight of my 12-part series on leadership and engagement essentials being shared every Tuesday. These insights are for any leader who's looking to focus on 3 C's: culture, communication, and collaboration. I'll quickly bring you up to speed if you haven't seen some of the previous videos. Being open-minded is foundational to anything we do. That's why it was the first insight I shared. The second insight focused on deciding who you want to be in this world. It applies to any undertaking in life as it involves your values, core beliefs, and will exemplify what you stand for in the world. Insight 3 discussed failures, the need to prepare for it, but also recognizing resilience as the key attribute for success. Today, I want to discuss the fault-finding pattern I've observed over the years and raise an awareness around it. I'll never forget the encouraging words my first boss told me. He said, "Anne-Marie, you take a little longer to learn certain things, but once you get it, you've got it. Keep learning because you bring a unique and objective perspective to things." You see, it's encouraging words like that that help you figure things out when you take a little longer to learn things. Unfortunately, when faults are the primary focus, it discourages people from performing at their best. And I'm not saying to give everyone a trophy for screw-ups, but I am saying that encouraging words help. My career has primarily focused on construction and facilities and operations. What I'm going to share is a very condensed process of what the building industry entails. An owner usually has an idea of what they want to build. They hire many contractors, first starting with architects and engineers who design what it looks like on the outside and calculate how it's going to operate on the inside. A construction manager is hired to oversee and manage the project. Installing contractors physically build the project, and commissioning engineers get hired to verify the operation, and eventually, when the building is completed, it gets turned over to facilities and operations. I am not a design engineer. Since I'm more of a visual learner, doing calculations as a career didn't appeal to me. Ensuring things work is what interested me throughout my career. Working in the engine room of ships is similar to the responsibilities of what the facilities and operations team does in buildings. That's where I started, with maintenance and operations. Here's what happens in an operational role. You can take apart a piece of equipment that has 1,000 pieces and put it back together flawlessly, and few people will actually know about it, but if you forget one part that prevents that piece of equipment from working, trust me, everyone will know. Because when equipment gets energized, it either works or it doesn't. And if that's a critical piece of equipment, it costs an owner a lot of money if it doesn't operate. Since I enjoyed coming home every day, my career out at sea was short-lived. So after leaving the shipping industry, I was introduced to building commissioning. It was the hot new thing that created jobs for engineers in the late 1990s. And with my recent hands-on experience, it was ideal. Unfortunately, the primary objective of commissioning was to point out all of the flaws in a system. The more imperfections we found, the earlier we were brought into future projects. Owners saw value of having someone who could potentially find flaws early enough so that they could save money on the projects. But as anyone who works in construction knows, you can never find every flaw. Owners use that growing punch list as an opportunity to save on the bottom line. Being involved in many construction projects, I saw a repetitive cycle. 90% of the project would go smoothly, but that last 10% where punch list was involved, it would take forever to complete. The bottom line of a project is based on how fast you can finish a project and how much money is saved. Retainage is a small percentage of money that's held by the owner to ensure contractors get the job done. The final punch list becomes the negotiation evidence to justify if a contractor's final payment is released. When pride, money, and proper functionality is at stake, you get to see the defense mechanism and sometimes a strenuous culture that creates a negative environment. Just imagine, unintentionally, from the time a project is designed, built, commissioned, and even turned over to facilities and operations, the central focus is on finding faults. Do you see why more leaders are needed in the building industry? I can't tell you how many people I hear say, "When I leave work at work. And when I go home, I'm a different person." I'm here to tell you that that's bullshit. You can agree with me or not. When you are good at what you do, you get better at it. So if your job requires you to find faults and you are incentivized by that, you only get better at it. And that fault finding memory muscle just gets stronger and stronger. So even if you want to turn it off, you can't. So now think about the managers who have mastered this fault finding skills and defense mechanism strong suits, who lead teams. Without proper leadership training, do you really think they can appreciate the good things their staff members are doing? Sadly, they can't, because finding flaws and defending their work is all they know. So think about how that affects the workplace culture. And for those of you who don't think that that's important, when staff leaves, whose problem does it become? And think about how this affects the culture, not only at the workplace, but in someone's home with their spouse and especially with their children. When you have that mental baggage at home, how does it affect your performance at work? Fortunately, I've done a lot of work on this, and I have hired many coaches, which allows me to coach others. It is a vicious cycle that I'm passionate about changing. It's why I created this course. I've seen it firsthand, and I have dealt with it extensively. I want you to recognize these insights and see how these behavioral patterns affect company culture and try inspire us into a serious lack of leadership. They are to reveal why leadership training is needed. And just like any informative topic, in order to see results, it needs to be implemented. The good thing to know is that when you learn how to interrupt and solve this fault-finding cycle in one area, it transpires to all areas. Think about how these leadership skills can not only have employees perform better at work, think about how it can actually transform their lives at home. I hope this insight encourages you to step up as a leader and take a stand. And I hope we can work together on leaving this industry a little better than we found it. You can see me next week when I share insight number 5 to this 12-part leadership series. I hope you make it an amazing week. As for today, I will be enjoying my birthday. See you next week, Tuesday.